Brilliant.
Environment and Ethics Officer. The Environment and Ethics Officer exists to promote sustainable and fair practices at the University of York. They consult with university management and influence policy. They raise awareness through student-led campaigns and make saving the planet enjoyable and accessible. They lead the Environment and Ethics Collective, a student-led group with campaigns for the university to follow environmentally and ethically sound policies and influences student habits to be more sustainable.
Okay.
So we're now talking to Pierrick Roger, the candidate for Environment and Ethics Officer. So first up, Pierrick, you want to demand that the university declare a climate emergency, which is something that you two have already done. Obviously, this is it could be said that this is kind of a gesture rather than an actual action. So what do you think that declaring a climate emergency will actually achieve?
Right, so declaring a climate emergency is more than just a performance. Depending on what type of climate emergency we're declaring, there's a whole list of steps that go with that. So for example, going carbon neutral by 2030 would be an objective that would come under this climate emergency declaration. It's just recognizing that climate change is something that is severe and that we need to mitigate on the behalf of the university, which isn't being done at the moment. And that just means that USU is able to hold the university accountable for its promises. Right now, that promise doesn't exist, so we can't tell the university that they're doing anything wrong, really.
Oh, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense to me. Thank you for explaining that. Another one of your promises that I found really interesting was that you want the university to go sweatshop free. There's obviously a lot of aspects to this. So how easy do you think that this will actually be to achieve?
Right. So when I mean sweatshop free for the University of York, what I'm really talking about is it's not what's usually associated with going sweatshop free, which would be like textiles and clothing. It's more about what the university spends money on, which would be computers, so IT equipment. That represents millions of pounds that just goes really wherever. We're not really asking whether the university has any links to modern slavery. And the one step the university needs to take is to join an organization called Electronics Watch. And this organization simply scrutinizes their supply chains. And it's actually quite cheap for a budget of millions of pounds, which the university has. It's barely just a few £1,000s. Just obviously linking this to modern slavery, I think that's a few £1,000s well spent just to prevent those human rights infringements, really.
Exactly. It's such a small price to pay for human rights, essentially. Leading on from that, how will you hold the university accountable for its environmental promises and ensure that it upholds those promises, besides the obvious of declaring a climate emergency?
Right. So to hold the university accountable, the university really needs to start being transparent. I know that transparency is a big buzzword for USU elections, but what it needs to do right now is to actually provide the data to students on, for example, their carbon emissions or where their IT equipment is coming from, because we just don't know any of this. And that would be the first step, obviously, to being able to scrutinize whatever it's doing, is for them to actually tell us what they're doing. I know it sounds quite obvious, but it's something that the university hasn't done at this stage, which to me sounds quite shady.
Yeah, absolutely. Transparency is important in any aspect of policy, but especially sustainability. So would you say that that's perhaps the biggest challenge to sustainability at the university?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just getting the university on board with really meaningful policy. I won't say that the university is peddling this narrative that it's actually quite green or quite socially empowering when it actually isn't.
Yeah.
I know that's not what the university wants to hear because it's bad PR, but that's really what we're looking at right now.
I'm so sorry. That's all we have time for there.
No worries.